Hi everyone, Sean here from Lines in Sand. Thanks for tuning in for another video. This is my channel, inspired by the mysteries of the pyramids of Egypt. Today I want to talk about, as with all videos so far, the Great Pyramid of Egypt. I will be doing videos on other pyramids at some point, but there is just so much to cover with the Great Pyramid at the moment. I think it was Keith Hamilton who wrote, "The Great Pyramid is like a black hole that has people developing these obsessions with unlocking its mysteries," and I can totally see why. I am fairly far down the rabbit hole myself these days. Anyway, today I wanted to do a slightly shorter video, something a bit more light-hearted as I work on a more longer and more in-depth piece to come. Did you know in 1976 an album was recorded inside the Great Pyramid? Yes, that's right. New Age jazz musician Paul Horn recorded what is essentially a live album inside several of the pyramid's chambers and released it as the double LP inside the Great Pyramid in 1977. And that's what I'm going to talk about today in this video. If this is the kind of content you are interested in, please feel free to like the video. It really helps, as does of course your subscription to the channel should you be feeling like you would enjoy more content in this vein. So please sit back, break out your audiophile speakers if you have them, and let's get stuck in. Who was Paul Horn? Paul Horn was a highly influential and innovative flutist, composer and producer whose career spanned over 5 decades. He was born in New York City in 1930 and began playing the clarinet and flute at the age of 12 years old. After studying at the Oberlin Conservatory and the Manhattan School of Music, he quickly gained recognition for his playing style and became a sought-after session musician in New York's thriving jazz scene. In the late 1950s, Horn began experimenting with Eastern music and spirituality, which would become a defining aspect of his career. In the 1960s, he traveled to India, where he studied and became deeply immersed in the country's music and culture. This experience would have a profound impact on Horn's approach to music, leading him to incorporate elements of Indian classical music, jazz, and Western classical music into his own unique style. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, Horn released a series of critically acclaimed albums that blended his flute playing with Eastern and Western influences. One of his most famous albums, Inside, was recorded in the Taj Mahal in 1968 and is considered a landmark of both world music and New Age music. This album features Horn's meditative flute improvisations against the backdrop of the Taj Mahal's majestic acoustics, creating what some would say is a mesmerizing and transcendent listening experience. He would go on to repeat this idea inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, and that's the inspiration for this little video today. Horn also had a prolific career as a composer and producer, working on a wide range of film and television projects, as well as releasing numerous solo albums. In addition to his own work, he has collaborated with many other artists, including the Beatles, Donovan, and Vangelis. In addition to his musical output, Horn was also a dedicated spiritual seeker and advocate for environmental conservation. He was a long-time practitioner of transcendental meditation and helped to establish meditation programs in prisons and schools. Paul passed away in 2014 at the age of 84, leaving behind a legacy of musical output and spiritual exploration. His approach to the flute and his blending of Eastern and Western musical traditions helped to shape the course of New Age music. But let's talk about the recordings he made inside the Great Pyramid. Recording inside the Great Pyramid. Paul Horn was supposedly fascinated by the idea of recording music in unique and acoustically interesting spaces, as he believed that the location in which his music is recorded can greatly impact the final product. This may seem quite obvious when said aloud like that, but as a musician myself, I can see why Paul would have been drawn to these locations. In the case of the Great Pyramid, Horn was intrigued by the Great Pyramid's unique acoustics and the possibility of recording music in such an ancient and mystical space. In the liner notes of the album, Horn explains that whilst preparing for his trip to Egypt, he was contacted by American pyramidologist Ben Peach, who gave him the following information.
He introduced himself by saying that he was a pyramidologist and he had lectured and written many articles on the Great Pyramid. Somehow he had heard that I was going to Egypt hoping to play my flute inside the Great Pyramid. He loved the idea and said that the sound and vibrations were an integral part of the structure. In fact, he said that every room had a basic vibration to it, and if we can find what it is and identify with it, we become in tune with that particular space. I had never heard that theory, but it made sense to me. He went on to say that the main chamber in the Great Pyramid was the King's Chamber. In it is a hollow, lidless coffer of solid granite. He said to strike the coffer and it will give off a tone. I should tune up to this note and I will be one with and in tune with this chamber. And by the way, he said, you'll find that note to be A438 vibrations per second and A440 is established pitch for tuning in the West.
Now, for what it's worth, this is not the first time that I have come across this information. If I may just go off on a small tangent here, 440 Hz is the tuning frequency that is more or less universally accepted in the music industry for the tuning of musical instruments. Similarly, the 44,000 Hz sampling rate, 44,100 to be exact, is the sampling rate which is considered to be crystal clear CD quality audio and is often the minimum benchmark today, even for digital music production. The 430 Hz tuning range, however, has a much older origin and is something that gives a much flatter tone, hence why 440 Hz, being more brighter, is more popular. However, there is much speculation on the 430 Hz range being much more in tune with spiritual or mystical properties, being a sound on frequency that can move around you and through you, rather than a sound or frequency that is played at you like 440 supposedly is. I've heard about this in the past in regards to music production and more particularly in regards to live performance, so my mouth was agape when I read the part above about the King's Chamber supposedly giving off a vibrational frequency in the 430 Hz range. Specifically, the King's Chamber is at 438 Hz. The resonant properties of the pyramid are absolutely astounding, and it is something that I will greatly expand upon in the future for sure. Anyway, that tangent was too fascinating to leave out, but let's get back to Horn's album recorded inside the Great Pyramid. To record the album, Horn obtained permission from the Egyptian government and enlisted the help of a team of engineers and technicians to set up recording equipment inside the Great Pyramid. The completed album more or less entirely features Horn's haunting and meditative flute improvisations, which are set against the backdrop of the Great Pyramid's reverberant acoustics. There are also several recordings of thumping and chanting intonations, again using the full power of the resonant acoustic properties of the Great Pyramid. The resulting album is a fascinating blend of ancient and modern, with Horn's flute playing echoing through the millennia-old stone corridors of the Great Pyramid. It has been hailed as a testament to Horn's adventurous spirit and his willingness to explore the boundaries of music and spirituality. But is it any good? My personal opinion? Sure, it's fascinating. It's a fascinating document of both 70s New Age music and a document of the acoustic properties of the inside of the Great Pyramid. In fact, after discovering this album and listening to it, I hunted down an original copy of the vinyl record. It is such an oddity. I think that it warrants a physical copy to go along with my other pyramid-related bits and bobs. To your everyday rock or pop music fan, however, this is probably not going to do anything for you. I'm not saying you have to be some sort of mad genius to understand this record, but it is just a disjointed collection of short improvised flute pieces. It's definitely not something that I'll be playing all that often myself, but I respect the artistic vision that went into this, as well as the utilization of the Great Pyramid's acoustics in the recording itself. The Great Pyramid is just as important a part of this record as the flute is, or Paul Horn himself. So yeah, if you are interested in the resonant acoustic qualities of the Great Pyramid, it is worth checking this out. Just don't expect it to be catchy or anything like that. I'll pop a Spotify link below in the video description for those of you who may use that service. It is also worth mentioning at this point that one of the main functions of Chris Dunn's Giza power plant theory is the harnessing of the Great Pyramid's unique resonant frequencies, but I'll get to that rabbit hole in another video. So, what do you make of this recording? Have you heard it before? Or are you perhaps even familiar with Paul Horn's other works, like the Taj Mahal recording, or maybe even his jazz stuff with artists like Duke Ellington? I wonder if other musical recordings have been made inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. I may have just opened a can of worms here. I'll have to do some digging. Anyway, thank you for watching. It's been fun to do something a little bit different with the channel, even though the channel is still fairly new. I'll catch you all again soon in a more regular pyramid historical video. Stay safe out there, and goodbye for now. I'll see you in the next one.